Welcome back. As you can see, some things have been upgraded. My hands disappear behind the Emperor here. It's kind of crazy. I ended up getting a green screen just to kind of bring the quality up a little bit. In this video, we're going to be looking at the meme. Hold on. Okay. We're going to be looking at the meme guide to every Warhammer faction. Just as a little fun thing. We haven't really looked at a whole lot of memes here for whatever reason that is. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so meme guide to every Warhammer 40k faction. This is by Auspex Tacticus or Tactics. I think that's it. Let's get into it.
So the Warhammer 40k galaxy is a big place, where mankind's locked in a never-ending war to preserve the realm of the God Emperor, who still seems to be everyone's guiding light in these dark times, despite sitting immobile on his golden throne for 10,000 years, and not saying much no matter how many psychers we feed him. Foremost among his servants are the Space Marines, the genetically...
I have those. I have those as my minis. Oh, I love painting minis so much. Would you guys be interested in seeing me paint some minis? Let me know in the comments. It's one of my favorite things to do when I have some downtime. I am not on that level. I need to get on that level like tomorrow. That would be a good time.
Augmented super soldiers, whose main deal is that they basically just fight against all the enemies of the Imperium. They get some very fancy ceramite power armor, which covers all your most important bits, and take to the battlefield with the very finest weapons that the Imperium can provide. Crackling power weapons.
When the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem begins to look like a nail.
With which to obliterate
that's real.
Your Japanese manga robots in space. And of course devastating long-range firepower with which to obliterate the enemies of...
Can I ask, does anybody know what the deal is with this? Will plasma make you go blind or something? I don't know. Just legitimately, I don't know.
The Emperor from afar. They're some of the most elite troops in the galaxy, but that's not necessarily going to stop us giving them danger weapons that routinely can kill them to death. Life as a Space Marine can be a hard and dangerous one, but at least if you survive long enough, you get...
That one's good. Everybody ganks it till the coffin starts walking. And I think a lot of those guys in those things go mad over time because they're basically not like barely any human left, right? They got damaged in battle. Even Space Marine left. They got damaged in battle, beat up, half gone. Some I've even heard stories that some are just brains. I don't know how true that is, but yeah, that would be a horrible existence.
Get a nice peaceful retirement, which I guess beats going to the old folks' home. If you're looking from Games Workshop's point of view, Space Marines are basically your...
Daddy loves you best. Literally, it's literally the Space Marines, and really, it's the Ultramarines. Now, I will say that I am actively collecting those guys. The reason I'm doing it is I'm trying to get good at painting, and there's just a lot of blue and not a whole lot of other stuff. I do want to go into the Death Guard eventually, and maybe the Orc. But I'm trying to get my technicals down with the Ultramarines before I start going into like harder and harder models. But I mean, they do look cool anyway. They're just like everywhere.
Protagonists in Warhammer 40k. More people collect them, so they make more things for them, so more people collect them. But every so often there do have to be a few releases for the NPC factions. It's no fun being a superhuman Space Marine unless you've got a few Xenos punching bags to keep around.
I heard that a lot of actual tabletop guys, like the players, that don't play Space Marines, hate that new people become like Space Marine players. I believe it, because it sounds like they get all the fun stuff and everybody else kind of gets second or third hand. So that makes sense. And look at this. So they got the Space Marine Codex and then all the little subs, the sub Space Marine codexes.
There is a downside to this though, as it will mean that Games Workshop will update your codex twice as regularly as anyone else's, meaning that you might be paying for quite a lot of paper over the years, and then maybe even a supplement book on top of that if you want to run all the fun things out of your chapter. More recently in Space Marine history, they've invented the Primaris Space Marines. Apparently these guys aren't here to invalidate the old armies or kill off the firstborn. They're just bigger, different true-scale Marines with a nice, sleek, clean and uncluttered aesthetic. Their arrival does seem to create a few weird rules though. We're not sure why, but Marlius Calgar has refused to get in a Land Raider ever since he crossed the Rubicon. Of course, by far the most numerous of these new Primaris Marines are the Primaris Lieutenants. They're just the sort of model that you can never really have enough of within an army. You definitely couldn't kit bash these from regular intercessors, so it's probably best that their design studio just keeps on cranking out more of these rather than addressing other factions.
That one in the middle at the bottom, with the orc head that's just chilling. And he's got like a sword. I want that. I want that model. It might be even the orc's body and the head. That looks cool. Oh, look at the Dark Angel up in the corner. They're all... Literally half of them are Ultramarines. No, more than half appear to be Ultramarines. Boy, everybody else's factions can just not get anything, I guess, huh? Except for if you're a Dark Angel or a Space Wolf or a Blood Angel. You get a couple of things. Don't get greedy now. All of it goes to the Ultramarines.
One of the best things about Space Marines though is that just how many different flavours there are of them. You can get Space Marines of just about every single colour of the rainbow, each of which have their own lore, fighting style, and preferred flavour of ice cream.
Oh my god.
First and most definitely foremost, we have the Ultramarines, the blue Romany ones that take themselves very seriously. They've got a unique and interesting cast of characters such as I. Cato Sicarius, Marnius Calgar, Johnny Protagonist, Mary Sue, and all the others.
Johnny Protagonist, Mary Sue, and the others. There's a lot of them. See, this picture here is exactly what I was freaked out about my models looking like. I got big hands, so it's hard to hold them. They're tiny. They're tiny. I don't even have one here. I got Transformers on the desk. I don't have anything else. I got Optimus Prime. Primal, excuse me. Don't come for me. I know who this is. That's all I got. But those models are teeny tiny. So trying to paint them is a lot of hard fun. Hard fun? It'll work. Whatever. I even got like jewelers lenses that you put the hat on, and then you can kind of flip the lenses down. I'll have to show it to you guys at some point, but I can't see that close up to them. I gotta get them right up here. So having those is awesome. It helps stop painting like the face we're seeing over here.
The special thing that makes them interesting is they have a book, and they do the whole war thing better than everyone else. If you do want to show your superiority over the Ultramarines though, you can always make some incredibly clever jokes about them, such as calling them Smurfs, mispronounce their Primarch's name to Robot Gorilla Man, and make fun of his special Eldar friend. There are many, many other
Was it Big Titty Eldar Girlfriend or something? I don't really know. I've heard that in passing. There's a white scar. That face when you were so broken they had to nerf you more than once.
Flavours of Space Marine though. We've got the white zippy ones who really like to play Mongols on their bikes. They're probably very disappointed that the Space Wolves have found Thunder Wolves, but they haven't found any Thunder Horses yet. There's the Iron Hands, the black mechanical ones, the ones that came out in 8th edition and everyone suddenly remembered that they were an Iron Hand successor chapter after all. Their whole thing is that their flesh is really weak, so they like to cut it off and replace it with some Iron Hard bionics before they head off to fight the enemy. To be honest though, head off isn't really a phrase I'd use around them, not given that little thing that happened to their Primarch during the Horus Heresy. Then we've got Corvus's sneaky boys, the ones that like My Chemical Romance, and quoting Edgar Allan Poe at meaningful moments. They have the lofty aspirations of being the Spec Ops stealth Space Marines, which they do somehow manage to do, despite having bulky mechanical power armor, and also the slightly noisy giveaway of often strapping a jet engine to your back and
I really like those. I really like that model.
Hurtling through the air very sneakily. Still though, at least they paint their armour black, at least they might blend in with the scenery a little bit better with some of the stealthy marines of some of the other chapters. Then we've got the nice green salamanders of Vulcan. They're all around good guys who actually feel that civilian life is worth preserving for its own merit alone. An ideology that's maybe just very slightly at odds with watching their enemies burn to death with their flamers, making a lot of their chapter kind of walking war crimes.
See, I kind of always forget about the salamanders. I shouldn't. We should definitely do a deep dive on the salamanders. 'Cause I don't know anything other than they like petting puppies or whatever the memes are. I don't really know much about them. I like this this little image over here, position fortified.
And we've got the Imperial Fists. They're basically the grown-up sons who never really got round to quite moving out.
That video, the Imperial Fist versus the Iron Hands, or Iron Warriors. I don't know why I said Iron Hands. Probably because I'm staring at that giant power fist. That video was so funny. So funny. After I posted it, I rewatched it. Not my video, but I rewatched the original video so many times. Hilarious.
To their parents' house. At least their fortifications make the place feel a little bit safer though. They do have a healthy dedication towards bolters and banana-coloured armour, and you've kind of got to respect that. Then we've got the Black Templars, the Space Knights who appear to purge Xenos heretics and furries, at least according to a YouTube video I saw from Flashkits. Always nice to have some crusading knights around that we don't have to judge in the context of real-world history.
A lot of black Space Marines here. Raven Guard, Iron Hands, the Black Templars, and Death Watch. What do they call them? I thought the Templars and the Death Watch were... Because I don't know anything about them, but they look really similar. What's the deal with that? Okay.
And then we've got the Death Watch, Inquisitorial
That makes me think we need to go into that.
Xenos hunters that Games Workshop thought needed their own codex, just to make sure that the loyalist Space Marines in Black Power armor niche was well and truly covered. Then we come to these guys. The Dark Angels are definitely loyalists, no questions asked. I certainly wouldn't go making any jokes about that, unless you want to be repented very hard with this guy's Crozius.
Oh.
They're Deathwing Terminators issued for...
So, we have the Dark Angels, and then we have the Alpha Legion. You can tell because he's got a little Hydra on his shoulder. That's funny. That's cool. I like that.
From their fortress monastery that's named after Dwayne Johnson, and are truly some of the most elite forces in the entire Imperium. About the only way to stop the Dark Angels' assault is just to quietly mention that you saw some guy in Black Power armor mouthing off about heretical secrets over in the next system, and they seem to pack up and leave really quite quickly. The Blood Angels are the angry red ones who give Korn a run for his money. For the most part they are fairly friendly blood-mad space vampires though. They do quite enjoy heroically sacrificing themselves in the pursuit of great deeds. The thing that you want to watch out for though is if they suddenly start calling you Horus. It means that their mental health might be fraying a bit, and you should probably get out of there pronto. They really can get very angry indeed over the death of their fallen Primarch, who sadly fell victim to the random number generator element of 40k.
Spoilers! Spoilers! I knew that happened. I haven't gotten to that part in the series yet, but I knew that happened.
A lot of the Blood Angels are still coming to terms with the fact that it's a dice game. Sometimes you can get unlucky. Finally,
Hilarious. We missed it. That last image was hilarious. He rolled all ones. So he couldn't save. Okay. We couldn't save him. Viking furries in space.
for the main big factions of Space Marines.
How many Space Wolf fans do we have? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you're a Space Wolf fan.
We have the Space Wolves. They started out as a mainly Nordic Viking faction, but over the years do seem to have acquired progressive layers of wolfiness. You can now field very themed units like a Wolf Lord with a Wolf Claw and Wolf Tail Talisman from the Wolf Spear chapter riding a Thunder Wolf, leading a bunch of Fenrisian Wolves, Wolf Guard and Wolfen. It's a deeply thematic thing.
Wow, that was a lot of wolf stuff. Everything is wolf, 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 wolf this, wolf that. Definitely proportionate response. What does it say right there? I can't read the damn thing because I'm in the way. Cursed. No. I want to I want to like look behind me, but it's not going to be there. Let's just grab me. He used the warp and tried to save mankind. Okay. Yep. That would be Magnus.
In general, they're a fairly sociable and friendly bunch, and chaps are just full of good boys. They're really quite popular, besides if you're the Dark Angels, who they like to have a punch-up with every single time they meet them. Or I guess the Grey Knights and the Inquisition, who they killed a bunch of that time. Or I guess the Thousand Sons, who they turned up to in the Horus Heresy, burned down their home world and kind of forced them to join the Dark Gods. Other than that though, they're really great guys. They'll offer you a beer, even though that beer is probably fatal to most humans. Really though, the sky's the limit with the Space Marine chapters. There's all sorts of other ones out there, plenty of ones in the canon like these magpies who'll steal your shoes and relics. Or nice fan ones like these angry boys. They're funny because they do violence and use swear words.
Yeah, who was it? Angry Marines? I want to say it's just the Angry Marines. And they're like, he's got middle fingers all over and he's flipping you off. I want to know more about that. That's a pipe wrench. He's got a pipe wrench covered in blood. Hilarious. That's a fan-made faction, if I'm not mistaken. Probably gonna have to go a little bit more in depth in that, because that seems cool and funny.
When we've got away from dealing with our millionth different flavour of Space Marines, though, there's plenty more in the Imperium. And who doesn't love the Imperial Guard? That nice brutal military organisation you could be conscripted to at a moment's notice, and then sent to become one of the numbers in a bayonet charge that's trying to assault a hive tyrant. Their troops are armed with the absolute finest gear that the Imperium can mass produce at a very cheap cost, such as the lasgun, which has even more hitting power than your standard flashlight.
Oh, the lasgun. It barely can do anything to all the... I mean, you're a human, and you're running in with a laser rifle, or a lasgun, which I'm assuming is just like a laser rifle, small something rather. What are you really going to do against a 9-10 foot tall, giant, angry man who's almost unstoppable? Like, you have to put up against other giant creatures that just live for death and murder. It's just like, what are you going to do with this little tiny thing if you're trying to take down a Chaos Space Marine or something with this little tiny rifle? That's why that last meme was so funny. Because you have to throw wave after wave of guardsmen just to take down probably something that a Space Marine could take down in like 2 minutes. Or even just a couple seconds.
Lad, what's great about the Guard, though, is that they never say die. Should mass firepower fail them, they can always fall back on their trusty bayonets or shovels. They both work just fine against the power armour of a Heretic Astartes, or at least so my infantryman's uplifting primer tells me. It's drummed in that every guardsman's duty is to defend the Imperium with the...
Cadia stands. The ones I shot for cowardice don't count.
The very last breath. They very much use a carrot and stick method for motivating their troops. That nice man with the fancy hat at the back will chant some uplifting slogans, and when the going gets particularly tough, he might even decide to blam a few of you, and this does absolute wonders for keeping morale up. Perhaps the real strength of the Imperial Guard, though, comes from their armour and firepower. If the enemy's remaining standing, it's probably just because you haven't quite thrown enough men or material at it. Let's see how clever those fancy Eldar are feeling when the entire battlefield is turned into steel rain by a battery of 100 Earthshaker cannons. Still though, if the worst comes to the worst, you can always send in the ultimate weapon. You might be tough enough to survive a Shadow Sword.
I don't recognize this, but that is also another cool model. It's got an orc head with a sword in it. So awesome. So awesome.
Volcano cannon, but literally nothing survives Sly Marbo. Next we have the tech support of the Imperium of Man, manning the Forge Worlds and repairing the vehicles on the battlefield.
Have you prayed to the machine god before you turned it on? Did you light incense? Did you rub it? Just cover it in oil? Did you make the machine happy? Oh my god. Just I pray that it works. Pray that it works.
an art of fabrication that's lost to the vast majority of the galaxy at large. You both need the tools and expertise, but without the right incense or chanting hymns to the Omnissiah, then your forces aren't exactly going to get very far with their repairs. Under a pleasant veneer of phony cog people who like their toasters too much, the Admech are a little bit on the dark side. I think most people would take their chances in the Imperial Guard over joining the Skitarii, unless you're absolutely desperate to have your legs chopped off and then grafted onto a set of track units.
Nope.
Still though, if you're lucky enough to be one of the tech priests, they can be good fun to command on the battlefield. Program your clockwork soldiers with a whole bunch of binary, and then set off to recover some STCs from humanity's distant past. Then we have the nuns with guns, the Adeptus Auroritus.
Yeah.
They're the defenders of the...
Hell yeah. I want to go way further into this faction. I really do. Nuns with guns. Lots of flamers. They have lots of flamethrowers too.
Imperial faith and enjoy burning mutants and heretics in the Emperor's name. Interestingly, an all-female order, due to an ancient rule saying that the ecclesiarchy couldn't have any men under arms, but it didn't necessarily say anything about women. I guess that was probably written in the distant past, before the Imperium became the equal opportunities paradise that it is today. The sisters make writing a bit easier for Games Workshop, as they actually have their plot armor built into the fluff, anti-divine miracles from the Emperor's blessing that can just more or less happen as they like. So basically the few sisters that don't get immediately martyred to the Emperor's...
That's Saint Celestine,
cause,
right? It is.
Basically just can carry on living for quite a while. There's certainly nothing like getting to grips with Celestine on the board, finally managing to put down this little murderous angel, and then she stands back up ready to kill you all over again. I feel like Games Workshop is maybe putting a bit of effort into giving the sisters a bit more prominence. Warhammer 40k does tend to be a little bit of a sausage fest with all these space marines running around, perhaps almost as much of a skewed ratio as your standard wargaming event. Their plastic model line has been really quite nice to see come out over the last few years though, and anyone who desperately wanted to field a non-dam wing can certainly do so with these new Paragon suits. I don't really have anything clever to say about this one, it's just either a dog martyr or a doge martyr. I'm not really too sure. Then we've got Games Workshop's effort to cram in Titans into standard scale 40k with the Imperial Knights. Certainly a bit of a power trip to field entire armies of big stompy robots, but they maybe do pose a bit of a rule.
How would that work? If you're going to play the tabletop and you have, like, I don't even know what it would take to make that army, right? We'll just say 7 Imperial Knights. You spend the time, you put them together, you paint them up, you get them all nice and ready to go. You just put them on the board, and then do you just wipe everything? Or is there an actual way to stop them? Is that easy, hard? I'm assuming they have to have some kind of like power balance in there to make that somewhat easier. It doesn't seem like it would be easy though to win when your opponent shows up with like 7 of these things. I'm just curious. I don't even know how to play the tabletop yet. I will one day. I'm gonna know. But I don't get it. How are you gonna take them down? I feel like it would be a massive undertaking to win that game, and also if you did win that game, how pissed off is that person gonna be that brought all the knights, thinking he was just gonna just take the whole field real fast, just stomp on through.
Rules challenge for Games Workshop in making the game about something different other than just seeing whether or not you brought enough anti-tank weapons along.
Oh yeah.
For those who thought that we'd already talked through all the Space Marines, of course we've got the Grey Knights as well, the elite demon busting wing.
We need a Grey Knights video. We need one desperately. We need one. It's coming. I have decided. I've made the decision. The Grey Knights video is coming.
Of the Imperial Inquisition. Apparently not one of these has ever even fallen to chaos, which is kind of impressive given that every single one is a psyker. They must have demons asking them if they want to cast off the shackles of the false emperor literally all the time. They get access to a bunch of the nicest toys in the galaxy, with storm bolters, force weapons, and teleport tactics being in large supply, and they also seem to have developed the cutest little Terminator entertainment system you ever saw. Hook a Grey Knight up to this and he'll be entertained all day, smashing those greater demons. While it's probably good for most of the galaxy that the Grey Knights exist and snuff out demon warp portals after they've emerged, you probably don't actually want to be fighting them alongside on the battlefield. On the one hand...
So I heard that if you are just a guardsman or something, you're on a planet that gets chaos and you're fighting chaos, the Grey Knights will kill you once they're done purging all the chaos. You helped win the planet back. You're just gonna blow it up and then kill everybody? What would be the point? If I was on a planet fighting chaos and then I suddenly see the Grey Knights show up, I am gone. I am gone. I will not be tainted by chaos, and you will not blow me up on that planet. It ain't happening. I don't care. You can hunt me if you want. I'm running.
If you lose to the tide of warp horrors, you probably get carried off and sacrificed to the Chaos Gods in all sorts of creative ways. But if the Grey Knights win, they do tend to get a bit genocide-y. If they think that your world's seen too much chaos, then they will generally take a very direct approach to exterminating that idea. I'm not entirely sure how they manage that when they often just show up with 50 or 100 brothers at most. It must take them a serious amount of time and effort if they do want to chop their way through a planet of billions of people. We've then got the Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's own golden armoured guardians of Holy Terror itself. The Emperor created them out of his own gene seed to make all the Space Marines feel inferior to them, and they certainly hurt the feelings of quite a bunch of Primaris Marines recently when they executed them all for not following orders properly.
Whoa.
All of these Imperial armies have plenty of support though, often
the Inquisitors too. There are so much. What is the monkey? What am I seeing? Hold on. What is this? Improve technology. Recruit the monkey. What is that? What? Okay. We're just gonna move on because I don't know. I could be stuck on the monkey in the corner here all day long. Move on. The Inquisitor. Inquisitor. I want to do a video on the Inquisition.
Requisitioning them or leading them into battle are the Emperor's own Inquisition.
Well, what I was going to say before this monkey figure here, this orangutan, as it were, popped into my mind. I still can't get over that. Anyway, there's so many factions that we need to go into. I want to know more about the Krieg guys, the Death Corps of Krieg, the Inquisition, the Grey Knights. I think those might be some videos that are coming. And the Black Templars too. Gator, I did not forget about you. I know you like the Black Templars. Didn't forget about you. It's coming.
Ultimate authority over every force in the battlefield, can use the units and forces that they most want out of the entire galaxy. Though despite this, their retinues of choice often seem to be made up of monkeys from the planets of the apes, and some guy who they managed to force a demon into. I suppose you need some distractions to keep things interesting, when a lot of your problems can be solved by just declaring exterminatus, and making sure that no one survives, loyalist or traitor. If they do need a precision tool though, I guess they can always dispatch one of the Imperial...
Oh, and the Assassins, the Guild of Assassins. Where's my pen? Where is my pen? We're doing it live. We're doing it live so everybody can see. Assassin's Guild. Inquisition. I've already forgotten. Black Templars. And Grey Knights. I spelled knight wrong. I had to go back and fix it. Oh, man, there's so much.
The ultimate accurate sniper fire of the Vindicare, the hidden blade and the polymorphine camouflage of the Calidus, the witch-hunting psychic void that is the Collectus Assassin, and then the Eversaw Assassin who hasn't really got the memo about what an assassin does and just runs in Leroy Jenkins style and just kills literally everyone. Hopefully their target gets included with that if they're lucky. Besides the Imperium, we have all the Second Thought factions, the ones that Games Workshop remembers exists every so often, just to make sure that your Primaris intercessors do have some fun-looking targets. If you abandon the brutal regime of the Imperium, you can always seek reference with the Dark Gods. You will have to get busy on your welding skills though, as they don't accept you without a lengthy period of welding spikes to your power armor.
Oh, great.
I guess if you sit around in the Eye of Terror long enough though, maybe the Chaos Warping things will do it for you. After that, though, you can set off on Black Crusade, burn and pillage some Loyalist worlds in the name of Khorne or Tzeentch.
The heresy train has no brakes? What is that from? Also, those models are spectacular. I don't have enough money. I'm going to need to get a second job. I'm going to need a second job and then probably a time machine so I can either pause or go back and work on these damn models. I want like 3 or 4 different models, like actual armies. Like, it's just, there's so much. There's so much, and they're so cool. And the detail, I need to have found this like 20 years ago. I should just imagine how many models I'd have then.
Or perhaps just at being generally annoyed at the Imperium, and the persistence with sitting around worshipping a corpse when there's much more fun and interesting gods out there. Fortunately, there's a great leader to lead your Chaos forces to victory, Abaddon the Despoiler. His 13 Black Crusades certainly make a nice intimidating number, though I think Games Workshop...
Competence versus Terminator armor. So this is also a joke that I don't know anything about, but it seems funny. Like, he took 13 Black Crusades to get, was it Cadia? I think that's when it actually worked, was Cadia, and it's because he threw the Black Fortress at it. He's standing on an Ultramarine. That's cool. I don't really like Abaddon as a character. I don't think many people do, and if you do, you're kind of maybe a little strange. Maybe there's something wrong with you. Is there something wrong with you? I don't know. But he seems cool. Like his model, anyway. He as a person is not cool, but his model seems cool.
Did eventually realise that he's not actually looking very threatening if they've beaten him back 12 times already, and finally did allow him to blow up Cadia a bit, so I suppose he did get the last laugh in the end. Presumably once they do manage to take down the Emperor and the Imperium, they're going to be ushering in a new age of paradise. I mean, just look at these guys. Wouldn't you be annoyed if you were being held back from this sort of pinnacle of the next level of human adaptation and evolution?
What is that? Okay, don't answer me. We're moving on.
The trick is to please the Chaos Gods, but only a little bit. You don't want them giving you too many mutations, otherwise you get a bit spawny. In-game, Games Workshop do like to give the heretics some rule support. The usual pattern of Chaos Space Marine codexes is that it comes out, and then the Loyalists get a nice new book a few months later that'll make all the Chaos rules look like a joke. Don't worry, I'm sure this new book with the 2 wounds, though, will be...
I know at least somebody who watches these kind of videos is or was, I don't know if you... Gator, do you still play? I don't know. I'm calling you out twice now, I believe. How are the rules... If you're a Chaos Space Marine player, how are the rules for the tabletop versus, I don't know, just a regular Ultramarine player or Space Marine player, what have you? Does it seem fair? I don't know. Does it? You'll have to let me know.
Be completely different. I'm sure it'll compete just fine with the next Loyalist book that's rumoured to be out later in the year. Like the Loyalists, they get all sorts of fun flavours of Chaos Marines. The generic vanilla flavour of Black Legion, perhaps the Ultramarines of the Chaos. At least they're a little bit more friendly and practical than some of the other legions, not just randomly warbanding all over the place, and this one is looking pretty awesome, as he decides whether or not to add the Space Marine's head to his skull collection. We've then got the Angry World Eaters. Khorne cares not from where the blood flows, which is kind of a good thing at the moment, given the current state of the Chaos Space Marine rules.
Just making sure you
We've got
guys
the Iron
see.
Warriors, who often get into clever battles of wits against the Imperial Fist.
Oh, that is so cool. Fortify, siege. Fortify, siege. Fortify, siege. It's the video that we watched before. The Iron Hands. Is it the Iron Hands? Is there a reason I keep saying that? Was it just Iron Warriors versus the... Now I'm lost. Now I'm missing. I had it earlier. Now I'm lost.
At least they can always fall back on mentioning the Iron Cage if they do want to win that argument, though. There's the Word Bearers, the guys who thought that heresy might be a great idea in the first place. They're basically the Jehovah's Witnesses of 40k, except if you want to welcome their gods.
A moment of your time to talk. Why does it say your like YOR? So I missed something right there. He's a Chaos Space Marine, that's why. So I'm guessing this is a word bearer's thing. I'm guessing that's what's going on here. Okay.
Into your heart, it's usually in the form of demon possession. They originally went down that whole thing, though, after they were told that they weren't allowed to worship the Emperor as a god. It's kind of funny how that wound up working out after 10,000 years or so. Then there's these guys. No one's quite too sure what the Alpha Legion are up to. Are they infiltrating Chaos for the Loyalists? Maybe they just don't really have any idea what they're doing.
I know that it's a big, a big thing. Like, you never know what side the Alpha Legion's on. Are they working for Chaos? Are they not? Is only some of them working for Chaos? Is most of them working for Chaos? I don't know. I kind of wish they would just pick a side. I know it probably won't happen, but it is an interesting little thing there that they keep going back and forth, and or they seem to be helping Chaos, but then sometimes they help the Imperial Guard or whoever, the Imperium. It's a weird, I'm not really into the spy stuff.
But they just quite enjoy fomenting rebellions, and they can all claim to be Alfarius as soon as you kill one of them. The Emperor's children are basically there to show up the Emperor's bad parenting skills. When the time came to choose Chaos Gods, they chose to get into bed with Slaanesh, speaking figuratively, or so I understand.
I hope you can see by my face that I do not like the Emperor's children. Not a fan. Just because they're creepy and weird.
And now they pursue the
Stop being creepy and weird.
very slightly conflicting goals of martial perfection, and also snorting as many fun substances as he possibly can. If you need a Space Marine Legion to throw a good party, they're probably the best choice, and they even do so on the battlefield with their sonic weapons. We've then got the Death Guard, the Legion of Mortarion, who perhaps drew the short straw where it came to getting Chaos Gods. Rather than getting unlimited military might, endless pleasure, magic and secrets, they get Nurgle. So their main thing is having space aids and also decomposing slowly.
Space aids? I think they're cool. I like their models. So, just for a backstory, why I like them so much. Yeah, Mortarion's kind of a pushover weirdo, wiener. I like his model, his 40k model. And I also really, really like how these guys are set up, like how diseased they look. Even though I'm kind of weirded out, I actually had a commenter ask me about tryptophobia and if I was diagnosed. I'm not diagnosed, but I can tell you I get like nauseous really bad when I look at that. And it is within like a 3 or 4 year, well, maybe it was longer than that. It's a new thing. That never used to happen to me before. So, I don't know, but it's kind of strange. It's a kind of strange phenomenon that just randomly popped up one day. I don't even remember what it was. I was looking at a beehive or something on, like, watching a thing on Animal Planet or something ridiculous like that. And I felt sick. So, no, I am not diagnosed with tryptophobia. Yes, I'm pretty sure I have it because it's becoming a thing where I don't want to be looking at stuff weird, like holes everywhere, for any amount of time if I don't have to, because I will get queasy. I don't know. We're just moving on. We're going to move on. But I love these guys so much. How cool and nasty they look with the drippy and the guts hanging out. Badass.
I guess as a bonus they are somewhat hard to kill though, maybe as a bit of an upside for being somewhat dead already. They've maybe had a bit of a heyday through these pandemic times, perhaps slightly ironic that they had a quite strong codex come out.
They shall feel no soap. When you Google your symptoms and it turns out you've been dead for a millennia.
Well, a lot of us were in lockdown and unable to play games due to Nurgle's influence. I guess as another bonus, you can also turn up to tournaments and things without having showered and just claim that you're playing fluffy. The Thousand Sons are the Sorceress Legion of Tzeentch. Their sorcerers really are avid readers, but the Harlequins unfortunately still won't give them their library pass.
Okay, so hot take. What the hell is going on? Sorry. It might be my puppy making noises back there. He's very itchy today. I had to give him some medicine already today. So hot take, Magnus did a lot of things wrong. He didn't just, I hate to break it to all of you Thousand Sun people out there. He did a lot of things wrong. So sorry, not sorry. I know I'm going to get some hell from at least one person about that. But he did some stuff wrong. Sorry.
Some say that Magnus should have been a bit more careful when sending psychic messages, not to disrupt the Emperor's webway game, and of course it was a totally proportionate response to send the Space Wolves to tear them all down. Tzeentch does like to keep change coming, and he did seem to get a bit too infatuated with the standard Marines of the Thousand Suns, giving them all sorts of fun tentacles and mutations.
That's funny. I know the reason that's funny is because half of their guys, the ones who weren't sorcerers, are now just dust inside of those machines, inside of their armor. They're just basically automatons.
But fortunately, a bloke called Araman managed to fix that, turning them all into armor stands full of dust. It does seem to make their Marines follow orders even better than normal, but conversation appears to have suffered amongst the ranks. Finally, for the main legions, we come to the Night Lords, brutal terror troops striking from the shadows, who unfortunately have the lore that makes them really good at scaring people, basically translating to them never really being very good in game, due to Games Workshop never really making leadership meaningful in virtually any edition of 40k.
But that makes sense. That's lore accurate for them to not really have, the Night Lords to not really have any, are you okay? Sorry, my puppy came in here. He's very itchy. He's a very itchy boy. That's lore accurate, though, for them to not be, to not have leadership, since Conrad is now deceased. They're all war bands. So anyway, but they do look cool. I still really like the Night Lords.
Much like the Space Marine Reavers, I do wonder whether dressing up in spooky armor is really all that more scary than just getting killed randomly by Khorne Berserker. Both of those things do seem like pretty reasonable things to be scared of and retreating from. I guess Halloween-themed armor must add something though, otherwise they probably wouldn't do it. Of course, after the Chaos Marines we get into all the warp entities that they actually serve. The Chaos Demons feast off the emotions of the mortals, all our negativity made manifest into demonic horrors that might just come bursting out of your head at a moment's notice. Who knows, maybe
I need these. I need those.
Maybe your thoughts and feelings could be generating a nice nurdling or a bloodletter right now. Within the Chaos Pantheon we have Khorne. He's a simple and very angry soul who enjoys rage, murder, blood and killing. Kind of interesting though that in the eternal game between all the demon gods, despite being the literal god of war, he never seems to get the upper hand over the others. Then we have Nurgle, god of death, pestilence and disease. He's a bit more friendly and very happy to share all these blights with everyone around.
He just wants to help you. That's all he wants. Did you remember to wash your hands? That one little model right there in the front has a bunch of faces or heads and hair. I love those so much. What's going on with that one? He's got like one standing in front of him on his hands. He's doing a handstand. Those are cool. You know, I went to one of my local game stores and I was looking for, I can't remember what I was looking for, but I found the combat patrol of the Death Guard and I almost bought it. Couldn't justify at that time anyway. I think it was like $120, $150, maybe 60. I don't remember. I couldn't justify it, even though I really want it. Oh, one day I'll be able to start this army.
He's endlessly brewing up new plagues to make your body go rotten in various different ways. The forces of Nurgle are led into battle by great unclean ones, also a subtype of Warhammer hobbyist who you might sometimes bump into in the sweaty halls of gaming conventions. Then we have Slaanesh, god of excess, perversion and all manner of kinky things, unwittingly unleashed by the Eldar, not knowing that there was such a thing as partying just a bit too hard. Finally we have Tzeentch, the changer of ways, and lover of magic, scheming, and money-tentacled monsters. No matter whether you win or lose with legions of Tzeentch, you can always claim
He does have a lot of little tentacle monsters, and the bird thing is kind of weird too. Do you guys know what's going on with the bird thing? I've been thinking about that recently. Like, he really has a fascination with birds. I can't remember his name, but the two-headed bird who can see both the present and the past and the future, maybe. I don't know. Why does Tzeentch really like birds? I don't understand. Let me know in the comments if you know why he likes birds so much.
that it was all according to plan, and they do have the nice benefit that if you've got any spare parts left over after making your models, you can just glue them all together, and you'll make something that's very credibly lore accurate to what Tzeentch might actually build. Finally, for the realm of Chaos, we get the Chaos Knights. Much like the Chaos Marines, when they leave the Imperium, they're allowed to get in touch with their edgy side. Not only do they get the armor spike to the Chaos Marines, but this guy's also managed to find some nice evil birds, and he's managed to convince them to sit all over his carapace for a bit. Currently, Chaos Knights are a bit of an afterthought of a faction, but at least after their next release, they'll have more than one model dedicated to them in their own faction, and not just have to loot the Imperial ones. Moving over to Xenos land, we're starting to get to the armies that burn up really nicely if you hit them with a big gout of Promethium. The Eldar are the haughty and very superior space elves of 40k, with hyper-specialised aspect warriors and farseers that can predict the future. Though despite having very limited resources and having to pick and choose their battles, they still seem to come off second best in an awful lot of confrontations. In general, the superior tech...
How is it to play an Eldar? For anybody who may or may not know. How is it to be either an Eldar player or play against an Eldar? I bet it would kind of suck in some instances to be playing against them, because they probably have some good tactics too.
Technology and devious gameplay of the Eldar often means that their opponents are going to be fighting on the back foot. In 9th edition up to their Codex release, they haven't been all that strong, but virtually for the vast majority of 40k's history, they've usually been one of the best factions in the game. I'm sure there aren't too many fond memories of 7th edition Wraith Knights, or 8th edition Inari or Flyer Wings, often obliterating the enemy's army with very little chance for them to strike back meaningfully. To keep their souls safe from Slaanesh, the clever Eldar invented a cloud computing service for dead relatives called the Infinity Circuit, and they can animate Wraith constructs with their ancestors if they need to fight for the craft world in times of duress. This one was particularly handy for the Eldar of Ayandin, a lot of whom became snacks for the Tyranids of High Fleet Kraken. Hopefully Spirit Stones still work equally well after you've had to fish them out of a ravener's stomach. For a dying race that really should be treating its warriors' lives with the utmost importance, the Eldar do seem to have a bit of a self-sacrifice streak going on. They frequently immolate one of their very best warriors to awaken the avatar of Cain. And their latest great idea...
I know that one. That was in Dawn of War. The avatar. It took a lot to get that avatar. It takes a lot to get that thing up and running. That model right there looks like a dark Eldar. That's what she looks like. And then the rest of them are just like maybe Craft World Eldar. And I do not know what's going on with the back one. That looks cool as well.
It is the Inari, basically being able to vanquish Slaanesh when every Eldar dies, which I guess is a very noble cause, but it would mean that there wouldn't be all that many Eldar left to enjoy their new galaxy. Often fighting alongside the Craft Worlders are the Harlequins or Clown Eldar. The regular Eldar do quite like humiliating all the other races' armies, but these guys take it to the next level. Nothing says that you're being outclassed quite so much than when your entire army is devastated by a bunch of circus performers doing acrobatics. As I'm recording this, Harlequins are perhaps one of the best examples of Games Workshop's current approach to game balance, in that if the last couple of codexes aren't by far the strongest in the game, then something has gone horribly wrong. Currently a codex of just 8 units is somehow managing to sit at a win rate of around 70% at big tournaments, but I'm sure that Games Workshop will jump on rebalancing them right away.
I'm almost positive this video is at least a year old, maybe 2, and I don't necessarily know if that's accurate anymore. Just FYI.
As soon as all of the biggest spending meta chasers have all bought themselves 9 Void Weavers. Then though we have the Drukhari, quite possibly the very, very last people who you want to get dragged away screaming by in 40k. These BDSM murder space elves think that causing pain is a worthy goal in and of itself, and what really is the point in war at all, unless you're venturing forward to taste the delicious agonies and get yourself a nice fresh supply of unwilling volunteers for the gladiatorial arenas and flesh crafters. Perhaps one of the more fun stories in Dark Eldar lore was when the Tau first encountered the Homunculus Covenants, decided to briefly ally with them and send across a nice cultural exchange program, only to find out that the next wave of allied flesh engines all seem to have a very weird blue-grey tint to their skin, and maybe these creepy necromancers are better left to themselves. Leaving space elves behind, we now come on to the Zerg, the aliens from Alien, the Tyranids. They're basically the hungry hippos of 40k.
He called it out. He called it out 2 times. So yes, of course, these guys are very close to aliens from the movie Alien. And then the Zerg, of course, because what was that? StarCraft was supposed to be a Warhammer game. That was a really big mistake, Games Workshop. If anybody sees this video from Games Workshop, that was a big miss. I played the shit out of some StarCraft when I was a kid.
We don't really see the other factions so much as enemies, but more as an all-you-can-eat buffet. Unlike more galactically trivial civilizations like the Tau, the Tyranids really pose an existential threat to Warhammer 40k. And as we don't know how many are out there, there's every chance that the ultimate fate of the galaxy is just to get carried away in this little swarm of space locusts. Tyranids really seem to be no joke when they're encountered, devouring most of Iyanden, reducing the defenders of Baal.
Man, the Tyranids. I did a deep dive on Wes Hammer's Tyranid video. I'll put that up somewhere on screen. But that was a lot of information. I didn't realize there were so many different hive fleets. Wow. It seems like no matter what you do in this universe, you're screwed. It's kind of pointless because there are big space bugs coming to eat you.
To nothing, and needing the Blood Angels to depend on a Khorne Bloodthirster to help them out, and perhaps most impressively of all, chewing through the plot armor of really quite a lot of Ultramarines, leaving their first company wiped out to a man. Despite endlessly adapting in the lore though, Games Workshop's own hive mind doesn't seem to have dreamed up any new models for them in really quite a long time. If you're thinking of picking up that new Tyranid Combat Patrol with all the gaunts in it, I hope you like scraping down mold lines. To help prepare the populations of more defended worlds for their inevitable mass consumption, the Tyranids often employ Genestealer cults, Insidious Uprising.
So those are really cool. The Genestealer cults are really, really cool. During that Tyranid video, Wes Hammer went into quite a bit of that. That was really one of my favorite ideas for the Tyranids is that they can, send. Oh, what are they called? It's not a lector, is it? They send in, or maybe it is. They send in like an espionage unit to sit there and wait and study a planet and then take it down by replacing all the little pieces, all their humans that are in leadership with a Tyranid, I guess, Genestealer. Well, just because that's kind of what they are. And the more of them happen, the more of them create, the less messed up looking they become and more human-like, except for their hair. They're hairless. And they all want to praise or worship a bug as a god until the Tyranids come. I mean, that's cool as hell. That is cool. Scary as hell. Cool as hell.
Things that wend their way through Imperial society.
Body snatchers.
Their membership is only open to anyone who has a really wide forehead. Their message really is quite convincing though. After all, the usual thing that gets people to worship a god emperor is how many arms they have, so I guess that's a bit of an easy win there. I do feel the Genestealer cult maybe have a slight narrative problem going on though. Basically, if they ever get too successful, they will generally draw the Tyranids to their planet, which doesn't tend to work out too well for your average run-of-the-mill wide forehead cultist. So I guess if you do collect a Genestealer cult army, if they've not yet been assimilated, I can only assume that they're currently a bunch of failures. One of the funniest things about Genestealers is, oh no, never mind, he's run off with it. In any case, moving on, we have the Orks, who basically as an army in 40k are kind of one big green meme already. Fungoid death machines who fight for the sheer fun of it, and don't take themselves so seriously as your fancy Primaris Space Marines. Must be kind of annoying if you were an arcane super soldier in battle for millennia, and you manage to get blown up by a rocket of an enthusiastic Ork who usually can't hit a barn door, who's only really along for the banter anyway. One of the best things about Orks is that a lot of their technology only really functions because they believe it does.
I love the Orks so much. Their models are so cool. Oh, man.
Captured shooters are often found
I need to win the lottery. I think that's what needs to happen. You guys were not kidding when you said, welcome to the hobby. Uh, was it something about loans? You're going to be broke. That's true. It is true.
out to be non-functional, yet give them to an orc and they still manage to make a loud sound and produce a chunk of lead. Painting your vehicles red does indeed make them go slightly faster, and blue paint does seem to make your vehicles suspiciously lucky. They are likely to be the last ones left in the fight. Some say that the Emperor himself is only as strong as he is because the orcs believe that he's dead hard. Orcs are just great through and through though. If you visit the orc painboy doctors, they'll replace your limbs with other ones that they've borrowed from other orcs. Their looters will steal everything that isn't nailed down, assemble them into big guns, and then blow you to bits with them. And Gretchen are there to make brutal oppression funny, because perhaps you don't have to feel too sorry for the goblin men if they're sent to clear minefields or get used as human shields.
Oh, great. Yeah.
If you like manga and Japanimation, then maybe Tau are the Xenos species for you. Zoomy around.
Now, what's your guys' opinion on if the Tau are weebs? I don't even know, what does that mean? What does weebs mean? Just like people love anime? Is that what that is? I like some anime, but is that what a weeb is? I'm confused. I confused myself. The Tower kind of like meh, meh. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know enough about them. We might have to do a deep dive on them too. We're definitely going to have to because I don't know enough about them to have an informed opinion on this stuff. Other than I know they were in. Oh, what was it? Dawn of War 2, I believe. Dawn of War 2, 3, and something else. They've been in a lot of like those RTS games, but I just don't know enough about them.
Found in battlesuits, obliterating enemies with plasma fire, and a curious greater good cast system that still seems to just add up to basically doing what those slightly spooky ethereal guys say. Tau always seem to have had a bit of backlash since they came out in 40k. They did seem to be one of the only races that made technological innovations, but I guess that's less of a thing now the Primaris all came out. Currently Tau players are in quite a good position to sit there with their railguns and drink the tears as you one-shot demon abominations from the safety of the other side of the battlefield though. In-game they do seem to be having quite a good time right now. Tau are well known for not being able to fight in melee as well, something that must confuse them as being a surprisingly necessary skill in the distant future of warfare. Usually they might try and get some Kroot in the way of that sort of thing normally, but it must be a bit disconcerting knowing that you've skipped arm day when the massive guy in power armor and the big knife grabs your pulse carbine. Currently Tau are one of the other armies that Games Workshop has souped up into the stratosphere. What could possibly go wrong with giving it one faction enormous firepower and also enormous firepower that doesn't need line of sight? Hopefully you weren't planning on hiding any infantry behind those walls when there's a million smart missile and air-bursting fragmentation shots coming down at you.
So they don't need line of sight in the game to fight or to see what they're shooting at? Because that seems like it would be a pain in the ass to fight against. And kind of cheating. Cheating, it seems overpowered. But they, I'm sure that they probably, if they're shooting a lot of guns and firing a lot of missiles and stuff, they probably don't have great melee attacks.
Just in general, I think that Tau are an army that Games Workshop struggle to balance. Only really doing shooting well does mean that they need to be good at it, but whenever they get too good at it, they just tend to obliterate their opponents without too much counterplay. So when they're strong can be a bit of a non-engaging faction to fight against. At least in 9th edition missions though, they do need to venture out of their deployment zone, and you can't just sit back with a castle of riptides like you could in 8th. Finally we come to the ancient robotic once rulers of the galaxy, the Necrons. Perhaps the main reason that you don't want to go digging around too much in those mysterious green glowing catacombs. You might not necessarily like what you find there, as might not the rest of the people who happen to live on your world. Under the Silent King's rule, the Necrons swapped their weak flesh for immortal bodies of living metal, though this did come with some downsides, with the Catan doing a bit of a half-staffed job on most of the population. So now quite a lot of them do tend to be on the robot zombie side of things. At least they've still got a bit of fighting spirit to keep on.
Real quick, that model is super awesome. He's got a Catan guy at the top, using it as a battery. Is that the Silent King? Or something else? I'm not sure. I can't really tell from here. God, Necrons are so cool. I wonder how overpowered it is when they get knocked down, if they can get back up again and keep fighting. I know that in Warhammer, no, Dawn of War, it was a huge pain in the ass to fight these guys. You got right up to one spot and they just resurrect all of them, and then you're screwed because you would be right, like your soldiers would be right there, and they just resurrect them all and wipe y'all out, and then you have to start building your Space Marine armor back up again. Pain in the ass.
Getting up once you knock them down, though, particularly if you wave a dusty glass orb in their general direction. Perhaps one of the most interesting of the Necrons is Trazen the Infinite, who quite enjoys capturing various members of the other races for his great big collection. He seems to acquire yet more ridiculous stuff every time Games Workshop teases it in the lore. Maybe he'll let Creed out of the Pokeball at some stage. The guy deserves a bit of time off after the fall of Cadia to finish that cigar. In-game, the Necrons started out with a really underwhelming codex in 9th, though Games Workshop has given them a whole load of points drops to make them halfway decent again. In a massively mysterious coincidence, somehow the Flayed Ones have got both to be one of the better units in the codex, and one of the single most expensive things that you can buy in 40k for the points. They have managed to breach the territory where you're paying slightly more than $1 for every point of models that you have on the board. Still though, a fair bit of their codex could use a bit of love. I guess if you go by the lore though, they could always call in their Blood Angel best bros to help them out. I think that's round about all of them, so hope you've enjoyed a very slightly less sensible tour of the various factions in 40k. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more. Most of the videos do tend to be a bit more serious than this one, but I'll certainly keep up with any Games Workshop's news of releases, and plenty of tactics discussion for the tabletop game. In the vastness of the internet, I'm sure I've missed some very important 40k memes, so let me know what else.
Let him know what else he's got going on. Alright. So that was Auspex Tactics. The meme guide to every Warhammer faction. It's very interesting, very funny. I got some of the references. You can't say that I didn't, because I did. It's on film. Well, not film, but video. Whatever. Don't judge me. I got time for that. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you hated it, give it a dislike. Catch you in the next one. Around here, there'll be some more videos you should watch. See ya.